My name is Charlotte. I grew up with my mother, Emily, in a modest apartment located on the fringes of our town. My father left when I was only 5 years old, leaving behind a dim memory and numerous unanswered questions. Despite this, my mom never spoke negatively about him, though the sadness in her eyes whenever his name was mentioned revealed more than words could. It was just the two of us, and she went to great lengths to provide for me, often working multiple shifts and over weekends. There were times when I'd return from school to find her asleep on the sofa, still in her work clothes, too tired to even reach her bed. Our life was simple and sometimes challenging, but it was woven through with love. Witnessing her sacrifices ignited a determination within me. I was resolved to succeed and make her proud. While others my age were out socializing, I was buried in my studies, determined to change our fortunes. My hard work paid off when I earned a scholarship to study economics at State College. The day I received the acceptance letter, my mom wept tears of joy. "You did it, baby," she exclaimed, embracing me tightly. "You're going to do great things, I just know it." College was a revelation. I was among peers who had led much more privileged lives, which was initially startling. However, I didn't let it discourage me. Instead, it fueled my ambition even more. I graduated with honors, with my mom's cheers being the loudest at the ceremony. The pride in her eyes was unmistakable. Our years of hard work and dedication were finally bearing fruit. After college, I secured a position as an economist with a reputable company in the city. As I prepared to move, my mom reminded me, "Call me every week and don't forget to eat your vegetables." I laughed and hugged her, promising to make her proud. Life in the city was a whirlwind of hard work and determination as I sought to prove my capabilities. I often worked late into the night and started early the next day. My efforts didn't go unnoticed, and within 3 years, I received a significant promotion. "Holy Charlotte," my coworker Michael exclaimed when I shared the news. "We need to celebrate. Drinks on me tonight." That evening, at Michael's favorite bar, amidst the loud music and flowing drinks, I noticed a tall, dark-haired man with a captivating smile at the bar. Our eyes met, and soon he approached me. "I'm Liam Montclair," he introduced himself. The night unfolded with lively conversation and laughter. We quickly became inseparable, and after 7 months, I was deeply in love. On a crisp autumn evening, everything changed when Liam Montclair proposed. The journey from a challenging childhood to moments of profound joy had shaped me into who I was. As I looked forward to my future with Liam, I knew the trials and triumphs of my past had prepared me for this new chapter. We were in the park, where Liam Montclair and I had shared our third date, surrounded by trees dressed in vibrant shades of red and gold. As he slipped the engagement ring onto my finger, a stunning diamond that must have cost a small fortune, I felt like the protagonist in a fairy tale. But little did I know, our story was about to veer in an unexpected direction. A week later, Liam Montclair mentioned it was time for me to meet his parents. "They're excited to meet you," he said, but there was a hint of unease in his smile. My suspicions grew as we pulled into the driveway of a sprawling mansion, complete with a manicured lawn and several luxury cars, a clear sign of old, serious money. "Your parents live here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Liam Montclair just nodded and led me to the front door, which swung open to reveal an older couple who looked as though they belonged in a high society magazine. "Charlotte, these are my parents, Jackson and Madison," Liam Montclair introduced. They greeted me with polite smiles that carried a hint of a French accent. Inside, the mansion was like a museum, filled with antique furniture, priceless art, and numerous portraits of stern-faced men and women in elaborate, old-fashioned attire. "Our ancestors," Madison explained, pointing to a particularly dark picture of a man who was a count in the royal court. Dinner was announced, and we were led to a dining room that could have easily seated 18. I sat down, overwhelmed by the array of silverware in front of me. As the first course arrived, I hesitated, unsure which fork to use. Liam Montclair subtly pointed to the outermost one, and I followed his cue, feeling utterly out of place. Throughout the meal, I could feel Jackson's and Madison's eyes on me, their looks of barely concealed disdain. I had never felt so inadequate. As we progressed to the main course, Madison's piercing gaze locked onto me. So, Charlotte, she began with saccharine sweetness. Tell us about your family. What do your parents do? I swallowed hard, my cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I was raised by my mother. She's a waitress, I managed to say. And your father? Jackson interjected, his eyebrow raised. He left when I was 3. I don't remember him, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The silence that followed was suffocating. Suddenly, Madison stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is unacceptable, she exclaimed, her accent thick with anger. Liam Montclair, darling, you cannot be serious about this girl. Mother, please, Liam Montclair started, but Madison cut him off. We are from an ancient French family, she declared. We have a reputation to uphold. We cannot allow our only son to marry someone without pedigree or proper lineage. Jackson nodded in agreement. Indeed, he said coldly. We expect our son to marry an equal, someone who knows their lineage back to at least the 7th generation. I sat there, mouth agape, completely blindsided. I know my mom's parents' names, I started, but the words felt hollow against the weight of their expectations. As the evening unraveled, I realized the fairy tale engagement was being overshadowed by a harsh reality, one where love was measured not just by the heart, but by lineage and legacy. Yet, beyond Jackson's dramatic display of rolling his eyes so vehemently I feared they might detach, it was clear he lacked any appreciation for heritage or respect for lineage. That's enough, Liam Montclair interjected, slicing through the thick tension. Charlotte is intelligent, kind, and diligent. I love her, and I intend to marry her. Your approval isn't necessary. His words filled me with warmth, but that feeling was quickly chilled by Madison's icy retort. Oh, you'll marry her, all right, she sneered. But only if she consents to our conditions. Weakly, I echoed. Jackson leaned in, his gaze piercing. If you are to join this family, you must adapt. You will follow our rules, learn our customs, and strive to uphold our societal status. Is that understood? I turned to Liam Montclair, seeking reassurance, and he nodded supportively. It's not as bad as it seems, Charlotte. They just want what's best for us. My head was reeling. This was not the engagement announcement I had envisioned. Yet, because of my love for Liam Montclair, I resolved to make it work. Reluctantly, I nodded. I understand. I'll do my best. Madison's smile was cold and unconvincing. Good. Start by familiarizing yourself with the history of our distinguished French ancestors. It's vital to appreciate your roots, she stated. I suppressed a response. My background was humble and nurtured by a devoted mother who had given her all for me. Instead of voicing this, I simply nodded again. The following weeks were a blur of relentless demands. My in-laws were not content with mere historical education. They decided I required a total transformation, etiquette and style courses. Madison declared, thrusting a stack of brochures into my hands. You'll need these to blend in with our circle. Thus, in addition to my full-time job, I spent evenings and weekends learning to navigate 15 different types of forks, master the correct way to curtsy, and perform the complex steps of a waltz. Keep your back straight and chin up, the dance instructor commanded as I tripped through yet another sequence, striving to embody the grace expected of a lady in society. Returning home each night physically sore and mentally burdened by endless rules and protocols, I confronted my wedding planner. Overwhelmed by the myriad tasks still pending, my phone buzzed, Mum again. Taking a deep breath, I answered with feigned enthusiasm. Hey, Mum, everything's great. The wedding plans are progressing smoothly. That's wonderful, sweetie, her voice brimmed with pride. I can't wait to meet Liam Montclair and his family. Have you planned a dinner yet? Cringing at the memory of my recent discussion with Liam Montclair, where he dismissed the idea of meeting my mother before the wedding, I managed a strained, "Not yet, Mom. Everyone's just so busy, but soon. I promise." The next evening, at another awkward family dinner, I cautiously suggested, maybe we could all dine with my mother soon. She's eager to meet everyone. The ensuing silence was stifling until Madison scoffed, her laugh sharp and dismissive. And just how do you envision this gathering happening? She asked, her voice laden with scorn. Jackson, feigning patronizing patience as if lecturing a child, chimed in. Charlotte, Surely you must understand. Our social circles are quite different. We really aren't accustomed to mingling with a waitress. A wave of anger and shame washed over me, coloring my cheeks red. How could they diminish my mother so callously as if her life's work held no value? She was worth more than any of them. I felt the urge to lash out, to defend her honor, but Liam Montclair's hand tightened over mine beneath the table. Let it go, he murmured quietly. Don't argue. It's not worth it. I clenched my jaw, biting down until I tasted blood. The injustice of it all gnawed at me. I loved Liam Montclair, yes, but at what cost? This felt all wrong. That night, as I lay restless and agitated, it struck me how much of myself I was sacrificing. With each stifled opinion, each compulsory etiquette class, and each lie to my mother, I was eroding pieces of the real Charlotte. Months of preparation culminated in our wedding day. Dressed in my bridal gown, I stared at a stranger in the mirror. The woman looking back was everything Madison and Jackson demanded: polished, composed, flawless. You look beautiful, honey, my mom said, her eyes moist as she adjusted my veil. Pride filled her voice, but my stomach twisted in knots. Thanks, Mom. I'm just nervous, I guess. She gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. Everything will be fine, she soothed, oblivious to the reality of the situation. The ceremony passed in a whirl, faces blurring together. Liam Montclair's side of the venue overflowed with the city's elite: judges, politicians, CEOs, while my side seemed meager, composed only of my mom and a few college friends. As the reception began, I quickly realized this was not the joyous celebration I had envisioned. Madison and Jackson reveled in the limelight, surrounded by their illustrious guests. It seemed, was relegated to the role of server. Charlotte, darling, Madison said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. Be a dear and fetch us some champagne and those little crab cakes. Frozen in shock, I couldn't believe this was happening on my wedding day. The tasks didn't stop. I spent the next hour darting between tables, serving drinks and snacks, trying not to trip in my gown. The whispers and sneers of Liam Montclair's family followed me, making each step heavier than the last. By the time I returned to my seat, I was nearly in tears, and Liam Montclair was absent, likely mingling with guests. I reassured myself, hoping things would improve post-ceremony. They'll have to start treating me as family, I thought. But then Madison's voice, loud and clear, cut through the reception. Charlotte, she announced, ensuring the room heard, as the new Delroy daughter-in-law, it is your duty to serve our table for the evening. After all, we have the most important guests here. Something within me snapped. Months of suppressed frustration and humiliation surged forward. No, I declared, my voice firm despite its shake. I will not. It's my wedding day, and there are waiters for that. My words echoed in the sudden silence that gripped the room. Madison's face twisted into a mask of fury. How dare you, she hissed, her voice seething with contempt. You will do as you're told and remember your place, you ungrateful upstart. You have no right to defy me, a woman of distinguished lineage. Rage and humiliation battled within me as I turned away to find Liam Montclair. I spotted him at the bar, laughing jovially with a circle of his college friends, a champagne flute dangling from his hand. Liam Montclair, I hissed, grabbing his arm firmly. We need to talk now. He looked at me, his eyes clouded. What's wrong, babe? Can it wait? I'm right in the middle of something here. I dragged him aside to a quieter corner, my hands trembling. Your mother is treating me like a servant at our wedding, and here you are, laughing and drinking as if nothing is wrong. Liam Montclair's expression darkened with irritation. Are you serious right now? You're bothering me over this triviality. I stared at him, disbelief etching my features. Triviality, Liam Montclair? They're humiliating me in front of everyone. He rolled his eyes, swaying slightly. Oh, come on. Just do what they ask. It's not a big deal. You should be grateful they're even letting you into the family. Grateful? I echoed, my voice tinged with disbelief. Yeah, grateful, he smirked, his arrogance clear. You think I didn't have other options? Prettier, richer girls from good families? I chose you, Charlotte. The least you could do is try to fit in. His words struck me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, feeling the ground shift beneath me. The man before me was not the Liam Montclair I thought I knew, not the man I had agreed to marry. "It's almost time for the ceremony," he said, checking his watch dismissively. "Pull yourself together and let's get this over with." As he walked away, I stood frozen, tears welling in my eyes, threatening to spill. Everything was so wrong. "Charlotte." My mom's voice cut through my turmoil. "Honey, what's wrong?" I turned to her, the concern in her eyes unleashing my tears. She enveloped me in a hug. "Oh, sweetie," she murmured, stroking my hair. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Between sobs, I told her everything. The degradation, Liam Montclair's cruel words, the months of trying to reshape myself to fit into a world that clearly didn't want me. Mom listened intently, her expression growing grimmer with each word. When I finished, she held me at arm's length, her gaze piercing. "Charlotte," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "do you truly love Liam Montclair? Do you want to marry him?" 7 months ago, I would have answered without hesitation. But now, I shook my head slowly, a painful clarity dawning on me. "No," I whispered. "No, I don't." Mom nodded, her expression resolute. "Then let's end this charade." Before I could respond, she strode to the DJ's booth and seized the microphone. The feedback screeched, drawing everyone's eyes to her. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice clear and commanding. "I apologize for this interruption, but there is an important announcement to make, a little truth that needs airing." My gaze locked onto Madison and Jackson, who sat frozen. Champagne flutes halted midair, and the room fell eerily silent, the tension palpable. "Madison, Jackson," Mom continued, her voice echoing across the quiet room. Or should I say Madison and Jackson? Madison's face drained of color, a stark contrast to the confident sneer she had worn moments before. Jackson's face turned a vivid shade of red. Madison stammered, her usually flawless French accent faltering. Mom's laugh, sharp, unforgiving, cut through the tense air. "Oh, come on, Madison. Don't you recognize an old classmate, Emily Thompson, from good old Brookfield High, class of '80? Whispers and murmurs swept through the assembled crowd as the revelation settled in. "That's right, everyone," Mom continued, gaining momentum. "Your esteemed host tonight, the supposedly noble Montclairs, are about as French as apple pie. Madison here was just another classmate in our quaint little town, and Jackson was the boy from the wrong side of the tracks, next door." I watched, fascinated, as Madison and Jackson seemed to deflate in their seats, their carefully curated personas unraveling before everyone's eyes. I knew it was them as soon as I heard their voices, Mom revealed with a wink directed at me. "Though I must admit, that French accent is a new twist. Picked that up after we all moved to the city, aiming to make it big." She paused, letting the reality of her words sink in. "Funny, isn't it?" I stayed true to myself, remained just an ordinary woman. But Madison and Jackson here, they reinvented themselves as French nobility. Laughter and shocked whispers spread through the room as the guests digested the truth about the Montclair's fabricated elegance. "And you know what the kicker is?" Mom's voice sliced through the murmuring. "These people who invented their entire past, who lied about their origins to climb the social ladder, they dared to look down on my daughter, to treat her like she's beneath them." Turning to face the crowd, her eyes ablaze with indignation, she declared, "There's nothing noble about lying. Nothing elite about treating people like dirt. The only thing beneath anyone here is the behavior of those who pretend they're better than the rest of us." A heavy silence followed her words. Slowly, the guests began to turn toward Madison and Jackson, their earlier looks of admiration now replaced by contempt and disgust. Caught in their lies, Madison and Jackson fumbled for explanations, their faux French accents crumbling into their true Midwestern twangs. "It's not what you think," Madison pleaded, her voice stripped of its earlier pretense. "We just wanted to give our son a better life." Jackson added in desperation, his accent revealing more of his humble beginnings than any chateau fantasy. "You don't understand the pressures of high society." Their pleas fell on deaf ears as the guests, many of whom had revered the Montclairs for years, turned away in disdain. The atmosphere had shifted. What had been a lavish event was now a chaotic scene of exposed pretensions and shame. Madison's polished exterior cracked entirely, her usual poise gone as she scrambled for any last shred of dignity. You think we did this for selfish reasons, for status? Jackson's voice trembled, but it was clear his charm had faded. We're not the only ones who tried to escape the weight of where we come from. Look at all of you. You're just as eager to climb higher, to be someone you're not. But the damage was done. Their desperate excuses were met with scoffs and whispers of disbelief. The people who had once admired them for their cultivated elegance now saw the truth for what it was: carefully constructed lies. Amidst the uproar, Liam Montclair stormed up to me, fury contorting his features. You, he spat, pointing at me accusingly, you've ruined everything, my life, my family's reputation. It's all destroyed because of you. I looked at him, the man I thought I loved, and felt nothing but relief. No pain, no regret, just a profound release from the farce. His words, his anger, no longer had any hold on me. I realized, standing there in the center of all the chaos, that I was free. Free from their expectations, their judgments, and most importantly, free from a future I didn't want. Taking a deep breath, I faced the chaotic reception hall. Everyone, may I have your attention, please? My voice was clear and resonant. Hush the crowd. I have an important announcement to make. There will be no wedding today. Gasps and murmurs cascaded through the crowd, the ripple of shock palpable as everyone processed the sudden turn of events. I continued, despite the rising emotions around me. I've come to realize that I made a mistake. I chose someone who is embarrassed by my background and expected me to alter every aspect of myself to fit into his world. I regret that I nearly married someone so superficial and deceitful. With those words, I reached up, removed my veil, and let it drop gracefully to the floor. I looked over at my mom, whose face radiated pride, her hands trembling slightly as she beamed at me. In that moment, everything felt right. There was no fear, no uncertainty, just strength. I'm done, I whispered to her, before turning to face the crowd once more. Let's go home, Mom. The fallout from that day was rapid and devastating for the Montclairs. Once celebrated pillars of high society, they became pariahs overnight. Their connections deserted them, invitations ceased, and their fair-weather friends acted as if they had never known them. The last I heard, they were forced to sell their grand mansion and relocate to another city, hoping to escape the repercussions of their exposed falsehoods. As for me, life unfolded in unexpectedly wonderful ways. Just a few months after the canceled wedding, I met Lucas. He's a teacher at a local high school and comes from a working-class background, much like my own. On our first date, I shared the entire ordeal with the Montclairs. Far from being deterred, he laughed and said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet there. We've been together since, taking things slowly." His family, grounded and genuine, welcomed me with no prerequisites, no etiquette classes, no extensive family histories to memorize, just real warmth and acceptance. I returned to my previous job, where I was valued for my hard work and integrity. My mom and I have grown even closer. She's not just my mother, but my hero and my rock. I make sure she knows how much I appreciate her every single day. Life, it seems, has a funny way of writing itself when you stay true to who you are. What I once feared as the end of everything was actually the beginning of something far greater, myself.